How do you do that? I've never been able to do that. Never been able to do that. Right, everyone, welcome to part 2. We're going to have a Q&A. I'll start things off. Tim, I sense a certain modesty about your work, and a kind of a, without joking and everything, a kind of a humanity and a down to earthness and so on, which I don't always associate with people who do comedy. And you seem to be kind of saying a lot about yourself and your background and your worldview. I found that really interesting and quite moving. There seems to be a kind of an emotional engagement, would it be fair to say, in your work somehow?
Yeah, I mean, I like to think that I bring that. I fundamentally believe in, not at all religious, but I believe in the idea that you treat people like you want to be treated. That just runs through my way I approach everything. It's just you just treat people like. You want them to be excited about the projects they're working on, and you do that by hopefully bringing in great scripts and great writers and all the rest of it, so that by the time they get to animate on a scene with something, that they're really engaged and they really want to be part of the gang. And that comes from just that fundamental thing of just like not treating anyone like an oily rag. Never even dream of it. Like the animators are the actors, and the riggers are the important people that provide the assets for the animators to be able to do their thing. So everyone is important, and the cast are important, everyone's important, everyone bringing something to it, and you want to make everyone feel happy to be there. We ain't digging ditches, are we?
I found it, in its own little way, quite moving. So that was really. I felt moved. Anyway, could we have some questions? It's a Q&A. Mine's a half.
A really quick, easy one. Where was your degree?
At Farnham in Surrey. Yeah, at the time there wasn't many places that did animation.
Yeah.
Lucky for me, I went there thinking photography, and I was like, because you did a foundation year. Remember they used to do a pre-degree foundation year?
Yeah.
And you did a bit of everything, and I was like, and I found photography. I thought, I'm quite good at this, and other people said, I'll be quite good at it. And so I went to do photography at Farnham, which was difficult to get in. It was a really robust course, and then quickly got pissed off with that, and I thought, animation was more fun. So you could have stories with it. So luckily, it was really lucky I was there and able to change to animation, because it was there or Liverpool. That was the only places that did animation. Yeah, so Farnham.
Famously founded by Bob Godfrey, of course, who in many ways is your sort of patron saint.
Yeah. He used to be visiting. By the time I got there, he used to come and do crits for people. Yeah. And sit at the back and they'd be hanging on his every word. Yeah. So I remember one of my mates was like, I've got Bob Godfrey going to be doing a crit. And he got really wound up. Remember the steam decks, and he's like playing his film on the steam deck, and Bob Godfrey's behind him, and he's like waiting for him to come out with his pearls of wisdom, and he just went, "You seen that, June? Load of wank." And they were his pearls of wisdom. I was like, I didn't watch the film.
Is it true that he took, actually Mal, you might tell this story, that he got students to do Henry's cat when he was doing crits at Farnham, or is that
he took his artwork to finish up?
got all the class to work on it. Okay, anyone else?
All right, so there is a belief in animation that the best cartoons or like the best movies are the ones where the people working on them get to be creative at every step along the way. So it's not just the writers or the director who says this is what's going to be made, and then everybody just does that and that's it.
Yeah.
Everybody in every department, even the little ones, gets to be a little creative.
Yeah.
So I don't know if you agree with that, but then
I do.
you said at one point, you said in one point in your presentation about the Russian, I think, animators who worked on the Mr. Bean
Yes.
shorts. You said they did their own like animation drum solos, you called them,
Yeah.
which didn't really fit in with the beat of the story. You said. So
That's right.
how do you balance really creativity in every department, but also have everything be sort of cohesive and work towards the greater sort of form of the film?
Well, that's a bloody good question. It was Tiger Aspect's fault. That was their first series. They didn't know the complexity and the nuance required to brief those animators in a way that empowered them. So you need to provide the animators with adequate resource in terms of the layout and the animatic. You want the animatic to really sing. We used to I always spend way too long doing the animatic. So the animatic is it basically. It's like it really should work at animatic, make you laugh there. You know, so if it doesn't make you laugh as an animatic, you ain't gonna make you laugh later on. You know, you can't fix it in animation. All the beats need to be landed on the animatic, and then when you brief the animators, you need to get them on board, and then you understand what you want, you know, where you're coming from, and not the way you want, or they want. You know, they all want to make the scene work. They don't want to be going off piece and having their work cut. They want their work to in the final thing. So if they understand the context, and everyone's pulling in the same direction, and you're going, there you go, fill your boots, dazzle me. That's the ideal scenario. That's where you want to be, not in a place where you're going, whoa, what should I do here? I'll just do this because I think that might dazzle them. You know, that was because they weren't briefed properly. Couple of things. Richard Purdom, they were the studio for doing brilliant drawn commercials, 30-second commercials. They were like the boss at doing that stuff. They'd never done a series before. Series is massive. Doing 5211s is a big thing. And especially then when you're getting all the stuff being done in another country and you don't speak their language and all this stuff. What do you expect is going to go wrong, isn't it? It's going to go wrong unless you're all over it. And so the best thing to do is get all over it and then give everyone the bits they need to be able to do what they need to do, and they really want to be on your bus.
Really great to see the Toad animation and the new technology that you use in Unreal. And I'm wondering, you know, with the ability for it to be rendered in real time, and you're kind of making almost like a sort of play in sort of 3D, I would imagine, because you can move things around sort of so easily. I just wondered how that changed the animation process and how it compared, you know, what you thought were good things or not so good things about it. But it was amazing.
Yeah. When we first were shown the Unreal stuff, and you could wiggle the camera around all over the place and do this, and I was like, shit, no, don't do that, you know, because we need to have sign off. We need to, like I say, all over the animatics, make the animatics work, and we know where the camera is and all the rest of it, and we've earned the wides and had enough of that business that I said, comedy plays in the wide and pay off in the close up and all that. And if you could do all that jiggery pokery of moving the camera around all over the place, and you could, but it gives the power to further, you know, it confuses the structure. So I was like, that's lovely, well, we're not doing that, you know. We were really kind of rigid with the animatic and old school with that, you know. So just because, I just think it's important to be able to get everyone, like I say, on the bus at every stage, and that includes all the vested interests, like the broadcaster and everyone else. It's like, this is it, right? Okay, we're fine, let's go, eh? And then on that, and they've changed that massively. It's going to be that coloured in and animated, and then you do that, and you don't fuck around like after that. You know, it's like you could, but you know that was like, hiding to nothing, I think.
So I suppose one thing that hopefully it helped the client be happier or more confident that they would get what they liked.
Well, yes, that's it. I mean, all those people, they're putting in lots of money, so they need to trust you, and you're saying that you're going to deliver a certain episode in a certain way, and then you go, right, we're going to wiggle the camera around in a completely unmotivated way. That's another thing. Is like camera movement. Needs to be earned, doesn't it? You move a camera. It's another character, really, isn't it? It's another storytelling thing. And just wiggling the camera around for unmotivated reasons drives me nuts. There was loads of that in the first series of Dennis and Gnasher. They used to wiggle the camera around all over the shop, and it's like, why? No, it's not helping the story at all. So, it's just like, less is more. If I had longer, I'd have written a shorter letter.
Oh, yeah.
What was the hardest thing that you had to do, and what was the things that you loved the most?
The hardest
yeah,
thing?
the hardest and the one that was the easiest for you, and you liked it the most.
Well, the hardest thing is the current thing at the moment, where I'm clicking around wondering what the future is, because I haven't had a job for ages. It's just like, and that's hard. That's hard every day to remind myself that, I mean, Bob Godfrey, as I said, was one of my heroes. He carried on working till he was well into his 80s, and I want to carry on working until I'm well into the 80s. I don't see any reason why I shouldn't, apart from we're in this increasingly daft world where I think people don't think you're vital anymore once you're an old guy and that, and
Wait till you turn sex. Wait till you're an old woman.
But it's daft, isn't it? Because you've got,
it's the same thing.
You're the same person, just in a different body, aren't
I
you?
know. I think it's very. I think ageism is really, really bad. Actually, particularly if you work in commercial, the commercial area. But it's bad anyway. For us, if me or Tim want to pitch to Netflix, we have to send. You almost got to send in an impersonator. I was actually thinking of getting my daughter or my producer's daughter to go and pitch. It's that kind of.
Yeah.
It is a bit like that. But
yeah.
we can't give up though.
No, we can't, and I won't.
They can all go and fuck themselves.
Yeah.
Just,
So that's the hardest thing, I would say, is at the moment. It is. And doing this has been lovely to remind myself, actually, you have got done some stuff, and you have got something to say. And I do strongly believe that. And I have been using the time to develop stuff, and I've been pitching stuff, and I went with my friend Dave Ingham, and we pitched to our show to a couple of people, and they bloody loved it. And so that put the lead in my pencil. So that's good. What was the other question?
The opposite, the thing that you loved the most, that was easiest.
The easiest thing. The thing I loved the most was I'm Not an Animal, which we did with Peter Bain and that thing about animals. Because it was such a mad time of we were doing 2D TV at the same time. It was such an intense time, and we didn't know how to do it as well. I love that feeling of not knowing how to do something, and just can we pull this off? Are we going to get away with this? I absolutely love
So
that.
you loved
excitement.
that feeling. Oh my god.
Yeah, just that excitement, because everything was we were trying everything out with the casting. We had ideas for the scenes, and then we'd get the casting, and they'd improvise it, and we'd film it, and then we'd use those bits to inform the timbre of the narrative, the kind of rhythm of the gags and the conversation. It was such a great thing to be right in there, doing that sort of pushing it with the comedy as well as the animation. It was all coming together, and we had to do it in no time. So it was like everyone was on the. Going back to that thing, how did you get the animators excited? It was like everyone was excited for that. Everyone wanted to make it work. We were all invested 110%, and it's just that feeling of everyone wanting it to work and being having fun doing it. It's just such a lovely thing when everyone wants it to come off. And that's same with 2D TV. When we did the first pilot for that, we killed ourselves to do the pilot and make it uber topical and all that. And then we sent it into ITV, and then they said, oh, we're going to show it tonight after on the telly, and after a Liverpool match. And it was like, it inherited 7 million. It had an audience of 7 million. And it was a massive hit straight away. And afterwards they were saying, oh, we weren't necessarily going to put it out. And we were like, what do you mean you weren't going to put it out? We killed ourselves to make that thing. But they were like, it's in their, you know, their gift to do what they like, isn't it? They put it back. Well, it was such a exciting thing. Like, and we had to crew up in no time to do it. And then we did it. Every week we were just like, oh, we got away with that. It was so tiring, knackering. But we did it. But things like storyboarding, I've always sort of like people. There was a thing I was at recently at Manchester Animation Festival where somebody's saying they're going to use AI to speed up the storyboard process. And I'm like, whoa, yeah, it's pushing the wrong button there, mate. You know, it's like, if anything, use AI everywhere else, but not at that point where you come up with your ideas, thinking of what this timing and all that. I can't see how that's going to help at all. But I don't know. That's all those young people, isn't it?
I don't know what that is.
No.
But you know, when I first came across you, was that there was a screening of Farnham graduates, and I was teaching part time down there. I think I think I helped organise it. It was like just in a cinema in Portobello Road, Electric Cinema, I think, and everyone was going, "There's that guy in his van," and it was like, and I just started my own production company. And then there was this guy with his own little branded van. Can you tell us a bit about that? The terrific van.
Yeah.
That's what really impressed me. I thought, I wish I was like this guy with the van. And the oysters on bicycles.
Yeah, well, we were the van. Having a van in those days was a very tax efficient vehicle, you know. So we had vans because it was the cheapest way of moving things around. But also in those days, the reason I met Jed, for example, was that he did lots of work. He did work for us to artwork in for us, you know, and bits of animation and stuff. We used to drive around London, dropping it boxes of
we
empty.
used to shoot your stuff, didn't we? On rostrum.
Yeah, that's it. And but we used to, and also with people who were doing either artwork in or animation, we'd give them a load of animation paper, come back in a couple of weeks, and we'd pick up the animation in the van. But yeah, that was just.
It was
I remember Steve Roberts. Steve Roberts said, "Yeah, the difference." He said, "You've reduced animation to the level of pizza delivery."
But it had that whole. But it was that economical style in a way, and it was part of the brand, wasn't it? The van and the deliverables like that.
Yeah.
And it wasn't like, you know, it was much more direct. The whole aesthetic as well.
Yeah, I think we were just sort of trying not to be the Brothers Choir, you know. I was so determined not to be arty-farty. I always wanted to do comedy that communicated. That was always my thing. Just like going to that. You've seen all the stuff I said I liked and all that, but the thing I aspired to doing was, what I loved about animation and still do is the thing of democracy, in terms of it's not in a gallery, there's none of that pretense, it's just art up there on the screen. It either works or it doesn't, and if you're making comedy, it either makes people laugh or it doesn't, and that's it. There's no bullshit, that's it. So you've got to survive by that, and I love that, you know, and anyone can see it, and there's no nonsense. All the art as commodity thing, all the all the way that art gets made expensive and all that. What's that all about? I don't get it at all.
But I think that was how we were brought up as students, and that's why I became a graphic designer, because I didn't want to be an arty-farty fine artist that just had their stuff shown in the gallery. I think that's probably how our tutors encouraged us as well. You know,
Yeah.
I was a few years
At the
ahead
time,
of them.
I think.
Yeah, and it came out of that sort of post-war education system where a lot of our tutors were actually from working class backgrounds. It wasn't all just privileged people that were going to college, and then there was that idea that it was more the sort of art that you could produce that everyone could see on television was a sort of more democratic way of producing art.
Yeah.
And I think that message maybe has sort of got a bit obscured recently. I don't know. But
I still believe that it still holds true in terms of like the thing we did set up the shows that I've been involved with that for kids, like the Toad and Friends. We're genuinely trying to do a good thing there. It's done with real conviction in terms of the characters and what we're doing with in terms of the Tinker, who's the girl, who's the female Weasel. You know, she's a funny character, really strong little, you know, and all the Weasels are funny. And then you've got Hedge, who's the arbiter of the group, and they're great, strong characters who happen to be girls. And having a daughter, that motivates me as well. I don't want girls to be the pretty one or the one, just the window dressing. They've got to earn their place, and they've got to be funny and vital, and it's just like, and they're 53% of the population. So what's the fucking big deal? I don't understand why we have to worry about representation. It's like, it just is, isn't it? Just is. And the same with, like, with the whole George Floyd there, I broke my heart. I honestly thought we got past all that shit. I just thought we'd had those conversations, we've done this. It's just like, how come we're still talking about it? It's just bollocks, isn't it? Just so long. So, and it's just, so, yeah. And every time I walk past a homeless person, I'm genuinely gutted. It's like, horrible, isn't it? Why can we have this in our society? Why do we tolerate it? Don't have it in Scandinavia. Finland, there's no homelessness in Finland at all. We just put up with it because all these people who own all this property and all that, it serves them, doesn't it? To have this divided society. There's some powerful people who want it to keep going.
Yeah, but it's not got any better, has it? It's
No.
not, just in London, it's just terrible right
Yeah.
now. Just terrible.
I was down in Falmouth recently for an animation thing where it's like they wanted to go down and help them choose the group projects they were all working on. And I got chatting to some people who lived there. I said, "Oh, it's nice in Falmouth, it's great." And they said, "Yeah, there's the thing up the road there where there's like a whole row of camper vans where people, like young people, live." It's just like, that's how people live in a place where all like Airbnb is taking the town over. It's like, bonkers, isn't it? And then don't get me started. I better talk about animation. Focus on animation. But it's all joined up for me. It's all the whole thing. It's just one thing. So it all feeds into the way we do Toad and Friends. It's like, I remember starting that and saying, why don't we try and do the detectories for little kids? And that was the philosophy. So it's like, and just so. And I'm not animating every frame. Someone asked me earlier if I do animation. It's like, well, don't really, because all I'm doing is just creating the conditions so that everyone else can have the fun animating. I just want to let them just, give them all the bits they need to have a great set of people doing their things, so. And the same with and we had some brilliant people on the lighting and rendering doing the Unreal stuff, and they were doing some heavy lifting, proper loads of it. And I remember apologising to this one, like Ben Cooper, his name is, brilliant guy. And I said, "Oh, I'm sorry, you've got to work another weekend." And he said, "What's he said?" He said, "You've got to have some friction to create diamonds."
Oh,
Yeah.
I remember that.
Yeah. So that's like, that's pretty cool.
I know what I thought was a good question, and I've forgotten to ask it, but you know, I know you're not involved in like trying to get funds for, you know, your own films particularly, or maybe
Not
you
sure.
are.
Would love to, yeah.
Yeah,
You
but
have
maybe you are. But there's this thing that certain organisations have this rule, which has been a bit of a bone of contention with a lot of animators, which has been that they want every animation director to apply with a producer. Well, we know that producers are very good. That's very, very useful. But a lot of directors often run their own production companies and will hire in a producer. But it was just that thing where you've done a lot of directing and a lot of producing. And I've always put forward this argument to these organisations, and so does a lot of other people, that actually, although that might be something that they do a lot in live action, that animation seems quite different, that there are a lot of director producers.
Yeah.
Traditionally, Bob ran his studio. Okay, he had a producer, but people remember Bob rather than the producer. I mean, Mike Hayes was, we haven't forgotten him, but John Hallis, people. There's all these companies that are director run, but in a sense, the institutions that are giving out money don't actually respect that. I just wonder what you thought about that.
What institutions are?
The BFI.
Well,
So the BFI is her
You cannot print your shorts if you don't have a producer that has already experienced that block a lot of people to put that project to the BFI short film fund.
That's ridiculous.
Yeah.
It's mad, isn't it?
It's funny you mentioned that because I'm going through exactly the same thing. I'm from Romania, and in Romania we have the same thing, government-funded independent films, but you have to apply with the producer all the time, and you get marks on the producer based on how many things he has done, and you get marks on the director, how many things you as a director have done. And it's so crazy because, just like you say, it's very centered around, okay, here's what we do for live action, and then animation is like, one afterthought. It's like, it's the same thing, but it's not. Animation is very different, but they don't treat it differently. They treat it exactly the same. So yeah, it's funny.
It would make more sense for the BFI to provide a producer to guide you through the process. So you can.
Well, they won't do that. I mean, it is. I mean, I managed to do it and do it through my company and hire a producer, but that is not the rules. That's not the. They will make exceptions, but it is not what most people come across.
And also for these things, it's more like the script always carries more weight than the drawings and the animatic text.
That's a
which
cultural thing.
I understand, the script is important, but in animation, isn't the whole point the visual aspect, like how it's drawn?
Well, the problem is they don't have those kinds of people commissioning. They tend to become from the literary.
Exactly.
I think.
I mean, the ideal thing is when you, on a production like big series, you do have producers and discrete directors. They're in different jobs, and they do have some awkward conversations. The director always wants to do loads, and the producer's there to tell them you can't do loads, you've got to do less. So to be a producer director is an unusual thing, really. You are a bit torn, aren't you? Because you want to do this, but you've got to do that, and so in a production setting, it does make sense to have two people.
Well, it definitely does, but still, often the director. I suppose the key issue is that is the case, and any sensible director will get a producer in. But I think it's the thing that at the offset that they're requiring it to be the producer's company when it's often the director's IP. I think that's the issue that's problematic. But I mean, but you've done both directing and producing, so I just thought it was something that I'm quite often, to be honest, is when the gigs come along. You just
exec on that job because I was asked to do it, you know, and I'd come from doing directing on Mr. Bean, so it just, you know, it's not like I'll decide I'm gonna be a producer now. It's just I got offered the job.
You do, yeah.
So but I can do it because when I was at like you, when I ran my own production company, you have to do a bit of everything. So you learn. Well, we're going to we need X number of animators. We've got this long to do something. You work it out, you know. So it's part of the problem to solve, isn't it? So yeah, not much match animation, have we? People are going already, but
I'm afraid we're going to actually have to finish up in a minute.
Right.
Can we have one more question for Oh gosh, that's straight in there.
So was the Mr. Bean animated series inspired by the Pink Panther cartoons that you worked on?
In terms of a UPA style, I suppose it was. Yeah, I mean, but the style was set before I got there. When we did our digital series, we were following on from when the design packs were done. So we just had to use the design packs that had been done by Purdams and put them into the digital setup. So, but in terms of the aesthetic, yeah, I think it does lean heavily on the UPA look. Yeah, I suppose it does in terms of that aesthetic. Yeah.
Well, I'm afraid we're going to have to finish up now, but can I have a huge round of applause for Mr. Tim Searle? We're going to, this will be the last event for a while. I'm going to do some online ones in the new year and then perhaps come back here sort of, a little bit after that. But I'll keep everyone updated on the on Facebook. But I think another round of applause for Mr. Tim Searle, please.